Welcome everyone. My name is Salvador Beltran, and today I am so excited to present you guys with the last episode of our series of talk shows, which is pretty much, the topic is pretty much the end times, right? It's a really broad topic, and we have finally come to an end to it. So we have invited the same guests we had last time. We have Miss Hannah and Lily. And the first question today, guys, is going to be, can we know anything about the time of Jesus' return? What are the signs? What do we see in this generation that announces the end of time?
Well, we can't know the specific date because Jesus says, that only he and his Father know. Well, actually, only his Father knows the specific date. That even he and the angels don't know the specific date that he's going to come again. So obviously, when we hear people saying Jesus is coming on November 15, 2021, we know it's not true. But as far as the signs of his coming, there are a lot of signs of his coming in the Bible. Yeah.
Could you guys tell me some of the signs?
Yeah, so actually here in Daniel 12:4 it says, "But thou, O Daniel, shut up the words and seal the book, even to the time of the end. Many shall run to and fro, and knowledge shall be increased." So we're living in a day and an age where we're learning a lot more about the Bible and about God's teachings than we knew before. Like we know in 1844 we learned about, Jesus moving from the holy place in the sanctuary to the most holy place, and the books were opened, right? And he's going through those books now. And in 1888, the whole concept of, righteousness by faith became something that I think is one of our fundamental beliefs. Where we believe that we are saved not by our works, but through the grace of God. So knowledge has been steadily increasing, and I feel that as Seventh-day Adventists, we are given a lot of the light, even that others might not have.
So pretty much what you're saying is like knowledge has increased, and that is a sign that Jesus is coming, right? Like, it could also relate to the knowledge, not only what you're talking about, but also with like computers and cars and all this stuff, right? Technology in general. We didn't have this way back, so like I think it relates to that. It relates to technology.
Things are moving quicker and quicker.
Yeah.
And society as a whole is going downhill. In the days of Noah, there was just a lack of self-control, a lack of boundaries, a lack of knowing what's appropriate, and even following those things that we almost think of like, well, we wouldn't cross that line, like all lines were gone. And in the Bible it talks about how as it was in the days of Noah, so it will be before Jesus comes. And I think if we look at our world today, there's not really any such thing as morality. People, yes, there is in parts of the world, but in society as a whole, people do what they want, and that's kind of a sign that the end is coming.
These sound like they're really simple signs, and so let me tell you guys a story, okay? So Captain Scott O'Grady was shot down over Bosnia on the 2nd of June in 1995. He pulled the ejection lever and parachuted into enemy territory, okay? So for 6 days, he hid under bushes, ate bugs, and drank rainwater. To make himself less visible, he covered his face with mud. Sometimes enemy soldiers passed within a few feet of his hiding place, but they never found him. What O'Grady did not know was that from the moment his ordeal began, intense preparations were made to rescue him. He was wondering, do they know I am alive? Are they going to come for me? Do they care? And all the while the United States military was mobilizing to come and get him, they had 40 airplanes in the air looking for him. They were using satellites. They were getting help from other nations. And O'Grady was wondering, will they come for me? So, our planet has been kidnapped. And you and I are living in an enemy territory right now. So some people wonder whether God has forgotten about us. Don't you believe, that God is with us,
Absolutely.
Is God's army making preparations even now to rescue you and me? He's coming. I'm pretty sure he's coming. He's coming soon. So what do you guys think about this story?
I think it's really powerful to think that sometimes we only see the side of the story that we're on. In fact, always. You think about Job, there was so much that happened that he didn't know about in heaven. And it's the same with us. We're like, why hasn't Jesus come already? But there's so much that we don't see. So much that God's doing to try and save everybody. And we don't see that. We don't see the other side.
Mm-hmm.
And I think even though it was not God's ideal to have us be on this sinful earth, I think this has been an example of why sin will never happen again. And I think through O'Grady, having this experience and going through that, I think it just gave him a better grasp of how important he was to other people, and how much people wanted him to be saved, and I think that rescue must have meant a lot to him. And even though that experience isn't one that I think he wanted to have, I think it was one that taught him a lot about his worth and his value. And I think that can go the same for us. When Jesus comes back again, that is when we're truly, I feel like, going to realize I have a Father in heaven, and he has come back to take me from this sinful world.
So pretty much it's kind of like, I finally realized, there's someone that actually loves me,
Yeah.
And, okay, so let me ask you this. When do we have to decide to love Jesus? This is a personal question, okay? Let me just ask you, Miss Hannah. So when did you start loving Jesus? When did you decide to love him?
I think for me it was more serious as I got into my teenage years. It was, as I was a kid, I kind of did, but you don't really know him that much until you get older. But the first thing that comes to my mind when you ask that is, let's say there's two people in love. They don't sit there and be like, am I going to decide to fall in love today or tomorrow? Like, you just fall in love as soon as you see how amazing that person is. And I think sometimes we're like, I don't have to decide to love Jesus today because he might not come yet. Is it even love if that's what we want? Like, is it even love if we're like, I'm not going to love him until I know he's going to come and take me, and I don't want to go to hell, so I'm not going to, I think if we really see who Jesus is, we start loving him now. It's as soon as we see who he is that we start loving him.
What do you think?
Yeah, and I think it's truly about that relationship that you build with God. I know I was baptized at a pretty young age, around 12, and honestly, looking back, I don't think that is when I truly started loving God, when I was baptized. I think it was maybe a couple of years ago, not too long, and I was realizing, that love isn't, in terms of God, it's not necessarily a feeling. A lot of times it's a choice. It's a conviction of the Holy Spirit. And sometimes I really do feel God's presence, but there are times when I don't, and I have to go by what I know and not by what I feel. And so just knowing that God is there and going by his promises, in the Bible, this is God's love letter to us. And so I think I really started loving God, like what Miss Hannah said, when I started to truly know him and build a relationship with him.
Okay, so last question. Let's say someone was trying to decide whether to love God or not. What would you tell them?
Get to know him. You're not going to know if you love someone until you get to know them. And some people are like, okay, well, I'm going to try this whole God thing and just see. Do that. If you try it and you decide you don't want anything to do with God, then you have the freedom to make that choice. Likelihood is if you actually know who God is, you'll never make that choice. But if it's just a step of deciding to get to know him and then make your decision from there, decide to get to know him, and the love, everything else will follow.
So what are some ways that they can get to know God?
I think a big way of getting to know God is communicating with him. A big part of all of our social relationships is communication. And so I think, through prayer, and prayer doesn't have to be, the formal way of doing it necessarily, in church, kneeling down. It can be, writing, you can write, journaling, talking to God, just closing your eyes before you go to bed and just having a conversation with him. I think just spending that time with him and making him a priority in your life will really show you who he is.
Okay, random question, okay? So, we've been talking about science and all this stuff. So, what do Adventists believe about the Antichrist?
Well, we don't have the time to get into all the reasons why we believe this, so I'm kind of going to just give you a summary, and if you
Mm-hmm.
want to know more about it, then you'll have to study it out. But
Mm-hmm.
Adventists believe that Rome and the papacy and all of that kind of fills that role in a lot of ways. There's a lot of prophetic reasons why we believe that, because I know it sounds kind of crazy and out there to just say that.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a lot of reasons in Daniel and Revelation that point to that.
Mm. Okay. So, when Jesus comes back, who is going to see him? Is it just going to be, a group of people that is going to see him, or like who's going to see him?
Well, I mean, it says in the Bible, and every eye shall see him. Everyone, I think, everyone will see him come.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's not just a group.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone, even the wicked, everyone, right?
Mhm.
So like, I was thinking about this question, the other day, and like, it's just very amazing how it says, like, everyone will be able to see him from the west, from the south, from the, from every single angle, like how amazing that will be. Like, I just imagine it, like it's gonna be so beautiful, and I'm really excited to see that. And I would like everyone, to be able to participate in that experience, and being able to have a good experience and not a bad experience, being condemned. So yeah, this is the end, guys. Thank you so much for
Thank
coming
you.
one
Thank
more
you
time.
for having us.
And I'm pretty sure it's going to be a great blessing for families out there, and on the internet. Sorry, I'm still learning English,
You're good.
But
You're doing
yeah,
great.
thank you so much, guys, for watching, for your support, for your love, and just make sure you share these videos, to people, and just pray for us also, because we really need to keep going with this series of talk shows. And hopefully by next week we have another video, and we're gonna choose another topic, and I hope you guys will like it. So thank you so much, guys, for watching. Please, if you have any more questions, leave them down below in the comments. And yeah, bye bye.